Hello out there in YouTube land, and welcome to FanTalk. I'm your host, author M.L.S. And today what I'm looking to talk about is things that basically annoy me in anime. I'm a huge fan of anime. I don't watch as much of it as I would like to, but I enjoy it when I do. I get very loyal to series, but there are some things I've noticed in all the anime I've seen that are quite consistent, and they're really just all that frustrating. So I want to sit down and just take a few minutes to basically rant about things I don't enjoy too much about it. So the first thing I really wanted to talk about is something I call the face turn. In wrestling, you hear about the heel turn a whole lot. In anime, what you tend to see is bad guys, they fight, and by the end of the fight, they're either friends and they're on the hero's side, or they weren't really that bad a person, and it really leaves you at the end of the fight feeling kind of sad for whoever got beat or for whoever got defeated. And these types of character arcs, they have their point in storytelling. They're really fun, they're really interesting, but when you do it every single time, it just gets annoying, much like when you try the same thing over and over and over again. It eventually just becomes noise, and it gets a little frustrating for every time I see the hero moving out throughout a battle and he fights and he's going to beat this guy that you thought like was really bad, and it's just turned out, oh no, he's just misunderstood. To quote one of the worst Marvel movies ever. It just gets frustrating to see that, because for me it takes away the enjoyment of the fight. I want to watch good guys fight bad guys. I was raised on 1980s action movies. I'm personally okay with people who are just no good and deserve to be beaten to a pulp for the enjoyment of the masses. Deeper storytelling, they all have their place, but it gets frustrating to think that, like, is there really, like, at what point does this person come against a guy who just needs to be beaten because he's a bad guy, he's a bad dude, and he has evil plans? That's something comic books have figured out, where their motives make them more inherently evil. But in anime, it usually turns out that there's some misunderstanding, or that they just didn't realize what was going on, or they both turned out to be good. This really frustrates me. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. So the next thing I want to talk about is something that's going to be a love-hate relationship with anyone who enjoys anime. It's really annoying. It's really frustrating. I'm talking about the power-ups. I'm talking about, inevitably in the middle of the fight, one of the opponents is going to be like, hold on, I'm totally going to power this thing up, and what I do is going to be amazing. You don't stand a chance after this happens. And it does one of two things. The first thing it does is it drives me insane, because who would honestly stand there and wait for his opponent to, like, charge up this super duper dragon spirit ball of spiraling death that would honestly, like, annihilate you in a fight? The biggest offense to this is Dragon Ball Z, where inevitably the guy's sitting there, like, summoning the energy of everybody who's there, or the guy's sitting there charging up for Saiyan umpteen thousand, and the other guy just politely waits and goes, well, when you're ready, we'll totally fight, because I lack the intelligence to punch you in the face, or even just kick you between the legs before you have the chance to load up this energy required to annihilate me in this fight I'm trying to win. It really frustrates me. The other side, it takes me back to the old days in Knight Rider. Have you ever noticed when you're watching Knight Rider, and inevitably in any episode of Knight Rider, Kid tells, like, Michael, I've never jumped this far before, and he hits the booster and he launches up into the air, and he goes so super high in the air, and he lands, and look, he made it, and he's never jumped that far before until next week when he jumps that far again. It's the same way with power-ups in anime. It gets hilarious. And I'm like, dude, I don't understand. If you could just be more powerful, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you, like, go into the fight with this ability? Now look, this is one of the common tropes with anime. You're always going to see it. It's always going to be common. But it's always going to frustrate me equally, because you're going to watch and you're going to enjoy it. But at the same time, in the back of your mind, don't you wonder, like, wouldn't I just punch him before he launches the attack? Wouldn't I just make sure this doesn't happen? I know I would, but if you love anime, you're going to put up with this. And the last thing I want to talk about today is probably everyone's number one favorite pet peeve about anime. So you've been watching for some 72 episodes for these two people to face off. You've been watching for about 20 minutes for them to really start throwing down, but we're not ready yet. You know what we got to do? we got to tell you this dude's entire life story before he launches his attack. Don't mind me. Just hold on one second. You have to understand everything from the origin of Moses all the way up into his this character's generation, so that when he fights, you understand completely that he's either very tortured, very powerful, or very evil. One of these things. But you have to watch this. And then, just when you think it's over, and he launches the attack, and like he's never going to dodge this attack, and the fireball of death is coming at your hero, and he goes, no, it's going to happen. You know what? Everyone's heard of that phrase, like, my life flashed before my eyes, but anime is like, no, we mean this literally. Literally is this fireball coming at you. Life, your whole life, is going to flash before your eyes, and you have to watch it. I would almost prefer to be annihilated by a fireball rather than see my life laid out before me. It gets pretty mundane when you think about it, but no matter how minute, no matter how specific the details, it's got to show you like every single one, just so we can get like another 30 episodes out of this one fight. Now, honestly, for my money, number one on this is Naruto. Naruto does this worse than anyone has ever done it before. Brief little spoiler alert. Okay, warning. If you watch the end of the actual Naruto series, or you're coming up on the end of the Shippuden series, you understand that what you're really waiting for is for Naruto and Sasuke to throw down, and you've been waiting, and it's been building, and it's been going up. But like in the middle of those fights are simultaneously like 8 flashbacks that are exactly the same. So you have to see Sasuke's life story. Then you have to see Naruto's life story. Then you have to see Naruto realize he could see Sasuke's backstory. Just so that you can go around and be like, yeah, that's cool, but Sasuke also knew Naruto's entire backstory. And you know, if only we talked to each other when we were kids, none of this would have ever happened. And by the time that montage is over, I regret having watched the 432 episodes that I've been waiting to see this fight. I'm a huge fan of Naruto. I love it a lot, but oh my goodness, the back filler stories that have to happen between every single move. I don't know if any anime does this worse than Naruto, and if you do, let me know in the comments below, because I would love to not watch that show. Don't get me wrong, fans. I love anime. It's fun. It's something to do between drafts of my stories. It's something to talk about when I'm hanging with my friends at work. It's a wonderful thing to do. But every now and again, these 3 things just boggle my mind, and they infuriate me with how often I fall for it too. And what it does is it keeps you watching. You're like, no, I'll finish this one. I'll finish this one. Sooner or later, someone will have worked out the theory, the mathematical theorem for how exactly to fast forward through it. Some people on YouTube, they cut out all the fillers and just put the fight together, which I really appreciate. But at the end of the day, you're going to keep watching. Everybody loves it. Everybody enjoys it. And I can't blame you. But for this week's episode, I really just needed the opportunity to vent, because I've been watching Naruto, and I'm through like the 19th filler episode when I'm just trying to see how it ends, and it really frustrates me to have to wait for another filler and to see every single character's backstory come true. So that's it for this week's episode. As always, feel free to leave me comments down below whether or not you want to give me ideas for what other shows I should do, what else you'd like to see me talk about, or just let your feelings be known. I'm M.L.S. and this has been FanTalk, and I'll see you next week.